Welcome to the channel, viewers. Dr. JW, theologist. Post-pandemic vaccine therapy journey. Episode 7, when the state ended family conversations and private conscience. In the previous episode, I examined how employment, income, and economic survival became psychologically linked to institutional compliance structures during the pandemic years. But once pressure enters livelihood, it rarely stops there. Eventually, the pressure enters the private human sphere itself. Family, conscience, identity, silence. And at first, many people still believed the private life would remain untouched. Public rules were one thing, but family relationships felt sacred. Personal conscience felt protected. Private thoughts still appeared free. Then slowly the atmosphere changed. Conversations became cautious. Relatives stopped speaking openly. Family dinners became emotionally dangerous. Ordinary discussion carried invisible risk. People began calculating who is safe to speak honestly around. And that question alone reveals psychological transformation already underway. Because healthy societies do not force ordinary people to emotionally scan family members before speaking sincerely. Fear had now entered intimacy itself. Parents argued quietly after children went to sleep. Siblings divided against one another. Adult children stopped visiting elderly parents over compliance disputes. Grandparents become emotionally isolated and physically isolated. Weddings fractured, funerals fractured, friendships collapsed under moral accusation, churches split internally, and beneath the arguments sat a deeper terror many people could not articulate clearly. The fear of becoming socially condemned by those closest to them. The fear reorganizes behavior rapidly, especially when combined with institutional messaging repeated continually through media, workplaces, public health campaigns, schools, corporations, digital platforms, and government communication systems simultaneously. The person no longer experienced pressure from one authority alone. The pressure became atmospheric. Total environments began carrying the same behavioural instruction. And that's where soft totalitarian conditions become psychologically powerful. Not necessarily through visible brutality, through total social saturation. Every screen repeats it, every institution reinforces it, every cooperation performs it, and every public statement echoes it. Every disagreement becomes emotionally risky, and eventually people begin policing themselves before authority even arrives. And that is the critical shift. The external authority becomes internalized. Self-censorship becomes automatic. People start editing facial expressions, editing tone, editing questions, editing honesty, not because armed force stands beside them continually, because social survival itself now feels psychologically dependent upon visible agreement. That internalization is now one of the deepest forms of authoritarian conditioning. The body begins enforcing silence against itself. Some families never fully recovered afterward. Not because disagreement existed, disagreement is human, but because fear transformed disagreement into moral contamination. And the unvaccinated relative. Okay, because fear transformed disagreement into moral contamination. The unvaccinated relative, contaminated. The questioning parent, contaminated. The hesitant worker, contaminated. The resident church member, contaminated. The unconvinced friend, contaminated. The atmosphere slowly framed them not merely as mistaken, but as dangerous, irresponsible, threatening, socially unsafe. And that moral escalation matters historically because totalitarian cultures often require more than rules. They require populations emotionally trained to associate dissent with danger itself. And once that association enters family systems, trust begins deteriorating at the most intimate human level. Some people still carry hidden grief from those years. Not only grief for what happened publicly, grief for what happened relationally. The conversation that never recovered. The parent-child trust fracture. The sibling distance. The church betrayal. The silence that replaced honesty. The humiliation of being treated as morally defective by people once emotionally safe. And others carry another wound, the memory of remaining silent when inwardly unconvinced because belonging itself felt too expensive to lose. And that internal split exhausts the nervous system over time, especially when maintained across months and years. And therapy begins honestly when people are allowed to recognize that many pandemic-era injuries were not only medical, political, or economic, they were relational, moral, existential, psychological. Because once authority enters conscience through fear and enters families through emotional division, the population itself begins carrying the enforcement structure forward internally, long after the emergency language fades publicly. So, if some people still feel emotionally unsafe speaking honestly now, that reaction may not be irrational paranoia. It may be the nervous system remembering what happened when private conscience stopped feeling fully protected from institutional atmosphere and social punishment. Because the pandemic did not only regulate movement, it entered the deepest human territory, trust between people themselves. So in closing, I ask you to listen to my final statement on this episode. The most totalitarian moment was not only when authority controlled public behaviour, it was when ordinary people became afraid to speak honestly inside their own relationships and conscience. I'm Dr. JWA, theologist since 1994. Like and subscribe to encourage me, comment to educate me, and share to help somebody else. I'll see you in the next episode when the media stopped feeling like information and started feeling like atmosphere.